Hi, my name is Katie from Lady Red Crafting, and today's video is all about winter and Christmas themed crafts using some challenge items. The challenge items this month are foam rollers, K-cups, and balloons. So let's jump right into craft number 1. So we're going to start out with our K-cup and a gold balloon. And I'm just going to trim a little piece of the balloon off of the balloon. And we're going to take this balloon, stretch it out, and wrap it up and around the K-cup. And this will give it a nice polished look without having to paint the K-cup. But if you don't have a balloon, painting the K-cup with some spray paint or some acrylic paint would be just fine. So now I'm going to take a small piece of floral foam, and I'm just going to trim the edges off of this floral foam to make a cylinder to be able to insert this into our K-cup. Now let's set that aside and work on our next step. So let's incorporate the foam roller into our project. We're going to get 1 foam roller and 2 branches from the Dollar Tree. We're going to take those little branches and we're going to wrap those pieces around our little foam roller. So now that our branches are completely wrapped around the roller, if you pull the little circle on the edge of the roller off, there's a wire hook on either side. And you can take those 2 hooks and you can just hook them together and then just wrap any of the extra branches up and around that piece. This makes a nice cute little wreath. Let's set that aside and grab a bamboo stick. And with this bamboo stick, I'm just going to stain it, and I'm using Waverly Antique Wax to do this. I'll set that aside for a few minutes and let that dry. And while that is drying, we'll grab some spray paint, and I'm just going to go ahead and use some white spray paint on our little wreath. And I'm doing both sides of the wreath using just a tiny bit of spray paint. And while the spray paint is still wet, I'm taking some of the fake snow from the Dollar Tree and I'm just going to sprinkle that around, and the spray paint will allow for that to stick and give it a little bit of shimmer. So while our paint is drying, I grabbed this adorable pick from the Dollar Tree, and it's these little white berries, and it's just such a cute pick for the winter time. And I'm going to cut some of the clusters of berries off of this pick to use in my little wreath. And while I'm doing this, I want to tell you all about this challenge I'm a part of this month. This challenge is called Just Our Imagination, hosted by Kathy Jo DIYs, Brenda from Rustic and Lace DIYs, and Sweet Tea and Butterflies is the guest host for this month. These wonderful ladies come up with 3 challenge items each month and give them to us as a challenge to incorporate into our crafts. The playlist and a link to their channels are listed in my description box below, so please check them out and give them some love. Thank you. So back to our cute little wreath. We're taking the little clusters and using some hot gluing them around the wreath. I'm doing 5 clusters for each side of the wreath, doing both sides so it's able to be reversible. So now let's grab our bamboo skewer that we stained earlier. We're just going to trim it a little bit because we don't need it quite as tall as it is. I'm taking the sharp side and I'm inserting that into our wreath and hot gluing that into place. Now let's take our skewer and insert it into the floral foam that's inside the K-cup. Now let's do some finishing touches. So I'm going to start by using some polyfill, and I'm going to take that and glue that around the base of our floral foam just to give it a snowy look. And for our last embellishment, I'm going to go ahead and glue a sheer bow underneath the wreath. And now we have an adorable topiary that you can put on a tiered tray or on a shelf. And if you're enjoying what you see, please hit that subscribe button below. Moving on to craft number 2. Let's grab a K-cup and a balloon and this fun ornament set that I got at the Dollar Tree. So we're going to start out by just cutting the tip of the balloon off. And once we've done that, let's stretch the balloon out and stuff the K-cup inside of the balloon so it covers the outside completely. Next, we're going to take a piece of floral foam and stuff that inside of our K-cup. We'll take some hot glue and then hot glue a little bit of polyfill onto the top to make some snow. Now let's take one of our cute trees and we're going to insert that into the Florifoam and polyfill. Last step is embellishments. We're going to go ahead and add a gingham bow to the top of our tree. And this adorable quick craft is perfect for your tiered tray. Craft number 3. To start this craft out, we are using 3 balloons. We're going to blow them up into 3 different sizes. The size of a lime, lemon, and orange. Next, I'm going to grab some Elmer's school glue and I'm just going to add that to a bowl to mix up a little bit of water into it to thin it out. Now you don't want to add too much water, you just want it to be a little bit thinner than the normal school glue, but still pretty thick. Now once you're satisfied, go ahead and add your twine to the bowl. And for this twine, I wrapped it around my hand about 25 times. And this will be great for the size of the lime. And what we're doing here is we're just coating that twine really well with the glue. Next step here is we just take that twine with the glue on it and we're just wrapping that around the balloon to make a twine ball. And when you get to the end of the twine, just tuck that piece underneath another piece of twine. Now for the easy step. Once you get the first one done, you just repeat that 2 more times. For the lemon, I did 30 wraps of twine, and for the orange, I did 35 wraps of twine. So once you have all 3 of your balloons wrapped, it's time to pack your patience and let them dry. And mine literally took 2 days to dry, so I just let them sit there. I turned them around just to make sure that they were getting airflow on all sides, but I just left them there to dry. So for our next step, you'll have plenty of time to do this while your balls are drying. And I'm using a canning jar lid, and this was one that I had already used for canning and doesn't seal anymore, so we're able to recycle it and use it in our crafts. And I just keep a stash of these in my craft room to use for different things. So I'm going to paint this with some acrylic paint in the color black, and I'm going to paint both sides. Also going to take a K-cup, and I'm going to paint that black as well. Now once the pieces have dried, all we have to do is take some hot glue and hot glue the K-cup to the top of the canning jar lid. And this will make an adorable top hat. Now let's go back to the twine balls that have been drying for the last 2 days. And I'm using my weeding tool and mostly my fingers to remove the balloons from inside of these twine balls. We have those balloons removed from the twine balls. Let's gather all of our pieces and put together our snowman. So I'm using a canning jar ring and a bamboo skewer, and I just cut the tip of the bamboo skewer off so that it would be flat on the bottom, and I'm hot gluing the bottom ball to the canning jar ring. And this is a regular mouth canning jar ring, which is the smaller ring that you normally would use for canning jam. And once the first ball is attached to the canning jar ring, I went ahead and added the skewer to the center of the ball. And then we're just going to add the balls in the size of the balls. So orange, lemon, then lime at the top, and glue everything together. Once you get to the top, if the skewer is cut properly, you won't see it at the top. Next, we're just going to hot glue that little hat on top of our snowman. Now for some final touches, we're going to grab a foam roller and we're going to deconstruct it, and we're going to use that small piece in the center of the foam roller. So if you've used foam rollers in the past, this little piece has a U shape on the end of it. This is the piece that clips the roller into place when you're putting it in your hair. And this U shape fits perfect around the twine on these balls. And for our final touch, I'm using a piece of scrap fabric, and we're making just a cute little scarf for our snowman. This simple snowman is adorable. I cannot wait to display him on a shelf for my winter decor. And if you love this snowman as much as I do, drop a snowman in the comments below. Rolling on to craft number 4. So for this craft, we're starting out with a piece of cardstock that's 8.5 by 11. And we're going to go ahead and use one of those foam rollers. Let's start by folding our piece of paper in half like a card. Now let's go ahead and set that aside and grab some paint. I'm using some apple barrel acrylic paint in the color Kelly Green and English Ivy. I'm just putting a little dab on a piece of cardboard just so it makes it a little bit easier for me to do the painting. Next, I grab my Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster, and I'm adding a daub of that as well to my piece of cardboard. Next, let's grab our foam roller, and we're just using the foam piece of the roller as a stamp with the paint. And I'm going to go ahead and start with the darker color of green, which is the English Ivy, and make a triangle that we're going to then add and fill in. And once your paint has mostly dried, we'll go ahead and do the same technique using the other color green. And this will give a nice layered look for our little tree. And one thing I love about this craft, it's something you could totally do with a child or would be great for a senior center if you're doing a craft for one of them. And now that our green paint has completely dried, I flip our roller over, and using the color Plaster, we're going to add some snow to our tree. Now to paint the trunk on the bottom of the tree, I'm going to use Waverly chalk paint in the color Truffle. And now for a few finishing touches. I'm going to hot glue a little bow on the top of our tree, and then I'm going to add just a tiny bit more of that plaster paint to my trunk just to kind of give that snow look to the trunk as well. And I felt like the card was a little bit big, so I am going to trim about an inch off of the card so that it'll fit better inside of an envelope. So I received these rub-on transfers from Crafterly, and I'm going to go ahead and use them in the inside of my card. And you can find rub-on transfers anywhere, so you don't have to order from Crafterly, but they do have some really cute ones. There are some great ones at Dollar Tree that I've used that are amazing, and I've seen them at Hobby Lobby and at Michael's, so you won't have any problem finding any of these. And then what you do with them is you just place them down like a little sticker, and you use a popsicle stick and you just rub that transfer right onto the piece of paper. And I always give it a little bit extra rub just to make sure that everything is perfect before I pull the little piece of plastic off. And that is as simple as it gets. This little card is absolutely adorable. I just love how this turned out. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't hit that subscribe button below, please do that. And as always, craft more, stress less.